The hour is deep, neither truly night nor yet morning. A timeless stillness has settled over the small medieval village, nestled gently between folded hills and a narrow stream that winds like silver thread through the landscape. The air is cool and still, resting over the thatched rooftops like a soft woolen cloak. A fine layer of mist has crept in from the fields, curling around the wooden fences and stone walls like a protective spirit of the land. The moon still lingers above, pale and watchful, though it begins to dip behind the tallest elm trees to the west. In the sky's eastward curve, the very faintest hue of blue is beginning to swell, quietly announcing that morning is, indeed, approaching. But for now, the village sleeps. In a cluster of modest timber-framed cottages, the only movements come from within the barns and pens. A donkey stirs, shifting its weight from one hoof to another with a faint shuffle in the straw. Chickens, nested together in the loft, remain hushed, their heads tucked beneath wings. Even the dogs, often quick to bark at the slightest stir, are silent. They rest curled at their masters' doors, breathing deeply, tails still. The world is wrapped in slumber. Yet, within one small cottage at the far end of the village, a flicker of movement begins. The shutters remain closed, but through the chinks in the wood, a faint golden glow escapes, soft and pulsing, like the breath of a candle just catching its wick. Inside, the baker has risen. He does not spring from his straw-stuffed bed with energy or alarm. His movements are slow, worn smooth by repetition. He has risen at this hour since he was a boy, watching his own father move through the same motions. Now it is his turn, as it was for the generations before him. He sits for a moment on the edge of the bed. His feet find the cold stone floor, rough and familiar beneath the calloused skin. The room is dim, lit only by the coals of the fire banked from the night before, still clinging to warmth under ash. Outside, not a single bird has begun to sing. The village remains tucked under the weight of dreams. But he, the baker, begins his quiet rituals. He moves through his home without words. There is no one to speak to at this hour. His wife and children remain curled in their blankets of coarse wool, breathing softly. The baby lets out a gentle murmur in its sleep, no louder than the creak of a beam in the ceiling. The baker's footsteps are nearly silent, bare soles moving over smoothed planks. He pulls on his work tunic, coarse linen faded from many washings, and ties his waist apron in a single practiced knot. Then he moves to the hearth, crouching low. With a blackened iron poker, he gently stirs the ashes. A warm orange pulse emerges, like the eye of a resting animal opening just enough to see. He adds small twigs and a handful of straw. The flame catches quickly. It does not roar, it hums. The firelight glows on the stone hearth, bringing a golden halo to the room's otherwise grey palette. The baker breathes in deeply, catching the mingling scents of firewood, earth, and faintly, something sweet from yesterday's crusts that still linger on the cutting board. He reaches for a small wooden lamp and touches it to the flame. The wick ignites with a gentle sigh. He carries it to the far side of the room, where a narrow door leads to the bakehouse, an annex built alongside the cottage for this daily purpose. The door creaks as he opens it. The cool night air meets him like a familiar companion. He steps inside the bakehouse. It is darker here, but the lamp's glow casts wide shadows on the stone walls and low ceiling beams. The bakehouse is modest, built with thick stone walls to hold heat. Its windows are shuttered, its single chimney narrow and crooked. In the center of the room stands the large domed oven, its mouth blackened, its edges chipped from use. Nearby rests the wooden mixing trough, stained with years of flour, water, and memory. He sets the lamp on a hook by the wall and inhales again. This space smells different than the cottage. It smells of ash and flour, of yeast and time. A living space, though no one sleeps here. In the silence, the baker begins to prepare. He moves to a corner where sacks of flour rest against the wall, tied with rough twine and labeled with charcoal marks. Some are heavier, denser, barley and rye, for darker loaves. Others are soft to the touch, pale and light, coarsely ground wheat for the village's daily bread. He runs his hand over the cloth, pressing gently. The grain shifts beneath his fingers like dry sand. He unties one sack and reaches in, scooping out a large handful. The flour falls from his fingers in a slow stream, catching the light like fine snow. It is quiet, no more than a hush, and yet this sound marks the beginning of a day for many. Outside, the sky is beginning to shift. The mist remains, but now it holds the soft blush of approaching dawn. A rooster crows, faint and far off, signaling that others will soon begin to stir. But for now, the baker works alone. He fills the trough with measured scoops, each one lifted with care. There is no scale, only years of experience, the memory of how much is enough, and the feel of weight in the arms. A pinch of salt follows, then another. In a wooden bucket by the wall, yesterday's water waits. It has settled overnight, cleared of any grit. He pours slowly, the liquid mixing with the flour in slow, looping swirls. The scent rises, earthy, familiar. He rolls up his sleeves, revealing forearms dusted with flour from years past. He sets his hands in the mixture and begins to knead. The dough is cool and resistant. It pushes back at first, stubborn in the early cold. But the baker's hands are warm and patient. He presses, folds, turns, presses again. There is no rush. The dough will come to life in its own time, and so he lets his mind settle into the rhythm of the work, his breath steady, his posture relaxed. Outside, a single bird sings, a soft warble, tentative and thin. Another day has begun. The hearth is the heart of the baker's world, an ancient companion that speaks in crackles and embers. As the baker shifts his focus from the preparation of grain and dough, his hands turn to the fire, tending to it with a quiet reverence. This is not simply a flame to cook bread, but a living presence that warms the bakehouse, offers light in the deep morning hours, and breathes life into the cold stones. The coals from last night still lie beneath a bed of pale ashes. They pulse faintly with heat, faint orange veins weaving through the grey ash like sleepy embers from a distant fire. The baker kneels, careful not to disturb the gentle glow more than necessary. His fingers find the iron poker, blackened and worn smooth from years of use, and he stirs slowly, coaxing the embers to awaken. With each movement, the ash shifts and settles. A faint wisp of smoke rises, curling like a ribbon through the cool air of the bakehouse. The smell is soft and smoky, a scent both sharp and tender, reminiscent of hearthsides in winter, of homes warmed through the longest nights. The baker pauses for a moment, listening to the silence that follows the ember's breath. It is a silence thick with potential, the calm before the flame dances again. Then, from a small pile nearby, he takes dry kindling, thin twigs snapped from the hedgerow outside, brittle and pale. These he arranges carefully among the embers, a gentle scaffold for the fire's rebirth. He pulls a handful of straw, golden and brittle, and nestles it atop the kindling. The contrast is beautiful, dark, glowing coals below, and delicate dry straw waiting above. Taking a deep breath, the baker strikes a flint against a piece of iron. A sharp spark flashes and lands near the straw, catching briefly. The flame flickers, then retreats, but the baker's patience is steady. Again, he strikes, this time the spark catches, and a thin flame grows, licking gently at the dry straw. The fire stirs, small tongues of orange flickering to life. It is shy at first, uncertain, and yet determined. The kindling crackles faintly as it dries and burns. The baker sits back on his heels, watching. The room slowly warms as the fire grows, its light spreading soft shadows across the stone walls and wooden beams overhead. The flickering flame dances gently, casting a golden glow that softens the sharp edges of the bakehouse. The warmth pushes back the early morning chill that clings stubbornly to the corners, weaving its way along the stone floor and into the cracks beneath the door. This warmth is essential, not only for the bread to bake properly but for the very life of the room. It chases away the damp cold of the night and offers comfort to the baker's hands, now preparing to shape the dough that will rise and swell in the oven's heat. The hearth is not a place of haste, but of rhythm. The fire breathes in and out like a slow, steady heartbeat. The sound of the crackling kindling is a soft percussion, punctuated by occasional pops as moisture escapes from the wood. The baker stirs the fire with gentle movements, adjusting the logs to encourage steady burning. There is a care in this, knowledge of the oven's temperament, the temperature it requires, the heat that must be maintained without overwhelming. He knows from years of tending that too fierce a fire will scorch the bread's crust too quickly, leaving the inside raw and doughy. Too weak, and the bread will not rise or brown properly, yielding a pale loaf with no character. Slowly, the fire climbs higher. The flames stretch upward, brushing the curved interior of the stone oven's dome. The heat radiates outward, warming the air until it shimmers softly, and the stones themselves begin to glow faintly red beneath the flame's kiss. As the fire settles into a steady blaze, the baker takes a moment to rest. He leans against the cool stone wall, breathing in the mingled aromas of smoke and wood. The warmth from the hearth spreads through his cloak and seeps into his bones, loosening the weariness that clings after the long night. The room around him is alive with quiet sounds, the soft hiss of the fire, the occasional drip of water from a leak in the roof, the distant crowing of a rooster just beginning to herald the day. Outside, the sky continues its slow transformation. The deep blues of night are gently surrendering to the palest blush of dawn. A faint glow edges the horizon, soft and unassuming. Inside the bakehouse, the fire's glow is steady, unwavering. It is the pulse of the morning, a silent companion that will nurture the dough, cradle the loaves, and transform humble grain into nourishing bread. As the baker sits, gathering strength for the work ahead, he runs his fingers along the worn stone hearth. Each groove and chip tells a story, the work of many hands, many mornings just like this. The heat, the ashes, the sweat and care of generations all mingled here. There is no rush. The fire will be ready in time. The dough will be ready in time. And so will the day. The gentle warmth of the hearth surrounds the bakehouse like a soft blanket, its amber light casting slow-moving shadows that dance across the uneven stone walls. Outside, the village begins to shift, quiet footsteps along the cobblestone paths, distant roosters call, the slow hum of a day beginning. But here, within the sturdy walls of this modest building, time feels different. It moves slowly, measured by the rhythm of fire crackling, the soft brush of grain through fingers, and the whispered breaths of the baker. In the farthest corner of the room, leaning against the cool stone, rest 3 large sacks. They stand like silent sentinels, rough linen sacks tied firmly with worn twine, bearing marks made in charcoal and faded paint. These sacks hold the lifeblood of the village's bread, the grain. Barley, rye, and wheat, the humble grains that have fed generations and will feed many more. The baker moves toward these sacks with reverence, his footsteps softened by the thick straw matting beneath his feet. Each sack carries its own story, its own scent, texture, and memory. The linen is rough and uneven under his palms, the weave coarse but sturdy, a fabric woven for function rather than beauty. The ties are unwrapped slowly, carefully, so as not to spill the precious contents. He lifts the top of the sack of rye first, releasing a faint puff of dust that catches the firelight like tiny golden motes suspended in air. The kernels tumble softly as his hand dips inside, warm and smooth against his skin. Each grain is like a tiny sun, plump and round, with a muted golden hue tinged with the faintest blush of amber. The scent is earthy and sweet, carrying whispers of the fields where the rye once swayed beneath the gentle touch of wind and sun. The baker lets the rye cascade through his fingers, watching the slow fall with a quiet smile. The sound is soft, a gentle rustling like the quiet chatter of leaves in a calm forest. He breathes deeply, savoring the smell, letting it settle deep within him as if to carry the grain's essence with him throughout the day. Next, his hands find the sack of barley. The kernels here are larger, slightly more elongated, and tinged with a pale cream color. They catch the light differently, shimmering faintly as if hiding a secret beneath their shells. The barley is rougher to the touch but no less full of promise. It carries a hint of sweetness and warmth, a memory of sun-soaked fields and long summer days. With a practiced scoop, the baker draws a handful of barley, letting it fall slowly into a large wooden barrel nearby. The barrel is old, its surface scarred with the marks of many years, deep grooves carved by tools, patches of darkened wood where flour has spilled and been rubbed away by countless hands. It is a vessel both humble and noble, a container for transformation. The last sack is filled with coarsely ground wheat flour, the most delicate and fine of the grains but still bearing the rustic texture of stone milling. Its pale, almost white color stands in gentle contrast to the darker rye and barley. The flour is soft beneath the baker's fingers, like the faintest whisper of silk, yet it carries the strength to bind and build the bread's body. The baker scoops carefully from the sack, feeling the light powder fall like a gentle rain into the barrel. A small cloud rises briefly before settling like a veil over the surface. Throughout this quiet process, the baker is keenly aware of the importance of balance. Each grain serves a purpose, Rye brings heartiness and earthiness. Barley adds a subtle sweetness and chew. Wheat lends lightness and rise. Together, they will mingle in the dough, weaving a tapestry of flavors and textures. He pauses to study the grains once more, as if to remember their journey, from seed to soil, sun to sack. In his mind's eye, he sees the farmers bending in the fields, their rough hands gathering stalks, the thud of harvested grain falling into woven baskets, the hum of village life intertwined with nature's rhythms. The smell of the grain mingles with the faint aroma of smoke and wood from the hearth, creating a warm, comforting perfume that seems to fill the room. Dust motes drift lazily in the lamp's golden light, floating like tiny spirits that celebrate the humble miracle of bread. The baker's hands move with quiet certainty now, scooping grain and flour, transferring, mixing. The sound is soft but steady, a comforting rhythm against the backdrop of silence. A soft breeze stirs outside the slightly open door, carrying in a faint hint of morning dew and wildflowers from the nearby meadow. The air inside the bakehouse is rich with warmth and anticipation. He wipes his flour-dusted palms on his apron, then gently pats the side of the barrel as if to encourage the grains to become something greater than themselves, to awaken under his touch and the heat of the oven. The village may still slumber, but the baker knows that soon, the scent of fresh bread will awaken sleepy villagers, inviting them into the new day. And it all begins here, with the quiet gathering of grain, the very soul of the earth's generosity, held gently in his hands. The morning air remains still and hushed inside the bakehouse, carrying with it the lingering warmth from the hearth and the faint scent of earth and grain. The baker pauses for a moment beside the barrel where the pale flour and golden kernels rest quietly. This is the moment of delicate balance, the artful judgment that requires no scale or measure but only a practiced hand, steady heart, and the quiet wisdom inherited across generations. In this time, there are no clocks or timers to guide the baker's work. No metal weights or calibrated scales. Instead, there is the patient knowledge carried in muscle and memory, a silent conversation between the baker and his craft. It is a tactile dance, a sensory ritual where feel and intuition weigh more heavily than numbers or instruments. The baker reaches down, palms brushing the cool wood of the barrel rim, feeling the grain's subtle vibration. He lifts a wooden scoop, its handle worn smooth by decades of use, and dips it into the mix. The grain shifts softly beneath the scoop, yielding in gentle waves. He fills it to the brim, the pale flour nesting gently alongside the rye and barley kernels. With deliberate care, the baker transfers the scoopful of grain to the wooden trough. He moves slowly, ensuring no grain is spilled, no measure wasted. The sound is soft, a muted tap as the grains settle in a growing pile, a whisper against the trough's worn surface. He pauses, taking the time to close his eyes for a breath, allowing the calm rhythm of the morning to settle deeper. In this quiet moment, the world beyond the walls seems distant and slow, a faint hum beneath the sacred stillness of the bakehouse. The baker's hands return to the barrel. He reaches in again, this time adjusting the amount of flour and grain with a practiced eye. The measure is never exact, it cannot be. It depends on the weather, on the moisture in the air, on the subtle difference in this morning's grain compared to yesterday's. It depends on the dough's mood, its willingness to stretch and rise. He touches the grain between his fingers, feeling the texture, the weight, the tiny differences that signal how much to use. His fingers spread wide, closing around a handful of flour, letting it sift slowly through his knuckles. The soft powder falls like a gentle snowfall, catching the morning light. A pinch of salt is added next, measured again by feel. Salt is the silent companion of bread, enhancing flavor and regulating fermentation, but always balanced carefully. Too much and the dough will stiffen. Too little and the bread will lack character. The baker's fingers trace patterns on the wooden trough, the surface worn smooth by years of kneading and resting dough. The trough holds not just ingredients but memory, the imprints of generations who stood here before him, whose hands shaped countless loaves. The air is still save for the faint crackle of the fire and the quiet movement of grain. The baker breathes deeply, savoring the mingled scents of flour, wood smoke, and early morning earth. His hands move slowly now, gathering the flour and grain into a small mound. The grain is light but substantial, promising strength and softness. The baker closes his eyes briefly, feeling the moment like a prayer, honoring the humble beginnings of this loaf. He begins to mix the ingredients, folding the grains and salt together with quiet reverence. Each motion is deliberate, a gentle folding and turning, as if coaxing life from the stillness. There is no rush. The baker knows that patience is the truest ingredient. Time allows the dough to awaken, to breathe, and to grow. He runs his fingers along the edge of the trough, feeling the rough grain of the wood beneath. It is cool and comforting, a reminder of the earth and the tree it once was. The wood holds the heat of countless mornings, the touch of many hands. Outside, the sky has shifted. The first pale rays of dawn stretch across the village rooftops, softening the shadows and painting the world in gentle hues of pink and gold. Birds begin to sing, their calls tentative and sweet. But here, in the bakehouse, the world remains cocooned in warmth and quiet. The baker's focus is absolute, his senses attuned to the weight of grain in his hands, the texture of flour beneath his fingertips, the faint saltiness of the air. His hands move with practiced grace, gathering the dry ingredients toward the center of the trough, readying them for the next step, the mingling of flour, water, and yeast that will bring the dough to life. In this slow and deliberate moment, the baker is a keeper of tradition, a steward of patience, a witness to the transformation of simple grains into sustenance and warmth. The weight of the day has not yet pressed upon the village. For now, there is only the quiet balance of touch and feel, the gentle rhythm of work done with care, and the promise of bread waiting patiently in the making. The early morning hush wraps itself tenderly around the village like a soft, familiar shawl, still thick with the cool breath of night. Beyond the bakehouse walls, the first blush of dawn spills quietly over the fields, touching the dewy grass and waking the trees with a gentle kiss of light. A pale mist lingers low to the earth, weaving through the hedgerows and curling like smoke through the narrow lanes that wind between cottages. Near the center of the village, just a few steps from the wooden market cross, stands the ancient well. Its stones are worn smooth by the passage of countless hands, rough and cool beneath the fingers, shaped by seasons of sun and rain, frost and thaw. Moss clings here and there, a quiet green witness to time. The well is simple and unassuming, yet it holds one of the village's greatest treasures, the pure, clear water drawn deep from the earth below. It is this water that will soon mingle with the flour and grain in the baker's hands, a vital breath of life essential to the birth of bread. The baker steps lightly across the cobbles, the wooden bucket swinging gently at his side, its iron handle cold and familiar. The morning air carries the faint scent of damp earth and wildflowers, a promise of renewal. Around him, the village begins to awaken, a distant bleat of sheep. The creak of cartwheels, a soft murmur of voices, yet near the well. The moment is still and sacred. He pauses beside the well's stone rim, resting his palms briefly on the cool surface. The well seems to breathe beneath his hands, a silent depth holding the life-giving water hidden away like a secret. He loosens the rope from its wooden peg with a soft creak, careful not to disturb the morning's quiet. Slowly, the bucket descends into the well's darkness. The rope unwinds in a measured, steady rhythm, the coil slipping through his fingers like silk, the sound a muted whisper against the heavy stones. As the bucket sinks, the baker listens to the faint splash of water far below, the echo of the liquid's welcome embrace. In the moments while he waits, his gaze drifts upward to the sky. The stars, pale and fading, still linger faintly in the receding darkness, while the horizon glows softly, suffused with the earliest hints of rose and amber. A few birds begin their tentative songs, weaving delicate threads of sound through the stillness. The bucket reaches the bottom, and the rope grows taut. The baker grips the handle firmly and begins to draw the bucket upward. The water's weight presses gently in his hands, cool and steady, as the bucket breaches the surface with a splash, sending droplets sparkling like tiny diamonds in the morning light. He lifts the bucket carefully, mindful of the preciousness of its contents. The water inside is clear and pure, reflecting the rosy sky in its smooth surface. He sets the bucket down on the stones beside the well, the gentle sloshing of water a soothing counterpoint to the morning's awakening chorus. The baker cups his hands, dipping them slowly into the water. The chill is refreshing, sending a gentle shiver up his arms, waking the senses. He brings the cool liquid to his lips, sipping with gratitude, a quiet communion with the earth that nourishes all life. He considers the journey the water has taken, traveling unseen through layers of soil and rock, filtered and purified by nature's own hands. It is ancient water, touched by time and the cycles of the seasons, holding the memory of rain and rivers, clouds and storms. Back in the bakehouse, the bucket rests on the stone floor beside the barrel of grain. The baker lifts it again, carrying the water to the wooden trough where the flour waits. The sound of the water pouring into the trough is soft and clear, a gentle cascade like a distant brook, blending with the faint dust of flour rising in soft clouds. The water mingles with the grain and flour, darkening the pale mound slowly, shaping the first wet breath of dough. The baker's hands follow, steady and calm, folding and pressing the mixture with practiced ease. Outside, the village stirs further. Smoke begins to curl from chimneys. Children's voices rise and fall. The market slowly fills with merchants setting their stalls. But within the bakehouse, the moment remains hushed, a sacred space where water, grain, and fire meet to create something simple, vital, and beautiful. The baker lingers a moment longer, sensing the quiet power in the water he has drawn, the life it will give to the dough, the warmth it will carry through the oven's embrace. It is more than mere liquid. It is the pulse of the earth itself, a gift held gently in his hands. With the bucket emptied, the baker carries it back to the well, replaces the rope carefully, and steps back into the growing light of dawn. The village breathes around him, and the day begins its slow, steady unfolding. The moment the cool water settles into the bowl of flour and grain, something subtle begins to shift within the bakehouse. The dry powder darkens and softens, taking on a new texture and life. It is here, in this humble wooden trough, that the ancient alchemy of bread begins to unfold, simple elements blending in quiet transformation. The baker rolls up his sleeves, revealing forearms mottled with faint scars and the soft dusting of flour from years past. His hands, calloused but gentle, are the instruments of this daily miracle. No tools are needed here, only flesh and bone, warmth and patience. The touch of his skin will awaken the dough. He kneels beside the trough, the worn wood cool beneath his knees. The air carries the mingled scent of fresh water, flour, and the faint smokiness of the hearth. It is a scent thick with promise, inviting and comforting. Slowly, he lowers his hands into the mixture. At first, the dough resists, cold and firm beneath his fingers, hesitant to yield. His palms press down, folding the soft mass over itself. The texture is rough at first, a tangle of dry flour and wet grain reluctant to unite. But the baker's hands move patiently, folding and pressing, turning the dough over again and again. He leans into the rhythm of the work, steady and deliberate, matching the pulse of his breath to each fold and press. There is a sacredness to this labor, a quiet ceremony performed each day in countless kitchens across the world, unchanged by centuries or seasons. The dough responds to his touch, slowly softening, becoming more pliable. It stretches and smooths, losing its initial stiffness like a muscle waking after long rest. His fingers splay wide, pressing deep into the dough, coaxing it to breathe, to stretch. The warmth of his hands transfers to the mixture, igniting a gentle heat that spreads through the mass. It is a delicate awakening, the first stirrings of life beneath the baker's careful ministrations. As he kneads, the baker's senses open to every detail, the soft tackiness of the dough against his skin, a slight resistance when it pulls back, the faint scent of grain mingling with a hint of earthiness. The tactile sensations are a language all their own, one the baker has learned through years of practice and quiet attentiveness. The kneading continues in a slow, meditative rhythm. The baker's arms move with steady grace, the muscles flexing and releasing in a practiced flow. The sound of dough stretching and folding is faint, a soft squelch that blends seamlessly with the crackle of the hearth's fire. Outside, the morning sun climbs higher, sending golden beams that filter through small windows, dust motes swirling in the light like gentle spirits. Yet inside, the bakehouse remains a cocoon of warmth and quiet, a sanctuary where time slows and the world's demands fall away. The dough gradually transforms beneath the baker's hands. It becomes smoother, more elastic, its surface glowing softly with moisture. It yields easily now, stretching like a living thing eager to grow. Small bubbles begin to form within, pockets of air trapped by the developing gluten. With each fold, the baker presses purposefully but gently, ensuring the dough's structure strengthens without tearing. He pauses occasionally, pressing his palms flat and pressing the dough firmly, sensing its readiness. Though the work is physical, it is also deeply thoughtful, a communion between man and material, a patient dialogue of touch and response. The baker's mind is calm, focused entirely on the sensations beneath his fingertips and the promise held within the dough's yielding folds. After many minutes of kneading, the baker lifts his hands and surveys the dough. It is transformed, smooth, elastic, and warm, a product of slow, steady effort. It rests in a mound within the trough, breathing quietly. The baker wipes his hands on his apron and covers the dough with a soft cloth. He sets it beside the hearth, where the residual warmth will encourage the slow, natural rise that will follow. The dough is left to rest now, to ferment and swell as unseen yeasts awaken and begin their work. In this quiet pause, the baker sits back on his heels, breathing deeply, his eyes soft. The room is still save for the crackling fire and the faint creak of wooden beams. Outside, the village hums softly, but here the world is hushed, held in a gentle balance. The journey from grain and water to nourishing bread has passed a critical threshold. The dough sleeps now, alive with possibility. The baker rises, knowing that the slow transformation will continue long after his hands rest. And so, in the steady rhythm of dawn, the humble dough begins its age-old dance, shaped by patient hands, warmed by hearth and hope, destined to feed the village as it has fed countless souls before. The dough, now resting quietly beneath its soft cloth, is a silent testament to patience, a virtue woven deeply into the fabric of baking and of life itself. In the warm embrace of the bakehouse, where the gentle glow of the hearth lingers like a comforting heartbeat, the dough begins to transform in subtle and unseen ways. This is the slow alchemy that marks the passage of time with quiet grace, inviting the baker, and all who witness this process, to slow their own pace and enter into the rhythm of waiting. Patience here is not idle. It is an active presence, a mindful stillness that holds the promise of change. The baker knows that rushing will only disrupt this delicate unfolding. Like the slow rising of the sun or the gradual swelling of a seed beneath the soil, the dough's growth is measured in moments, felt rather than seen. As the minutes pass, the warmth from the nearby hearth seeps into the wooden trough, tenderly coaxing the dough to life. The air in the bakehouse is soft and steady, filled with the mingled scents of grain, flour, and the faintest trace of smoke. These scents weave a tapestry of comfort and home, grounding the baker in the here and now. The dough's surface, once smooth and taut, begins to shift imperceptibly. It swells gently, pushing against the cloth that covers it like a breath held just before a sigh. The texture grows softer under the baker's fingers when he checks it now and then, a quiet reminder that life is moving forward, even in stillness. Outside, the village carries on its morning rituals. The clatter of carts on cobblestones, the distant voices of farmers tending fields, the rustle of leaves stirred by a light breeze, all blend into a harmonious backdrop. But inside the bakehouse, time seems suspended in a pocket of warmth and quiet anticipation. The baker's movements slow as he returns to his daily tasks, but his mind remains tethered to the dough. Each so often, he rises to check its progress. His hands hover, respectful and gentle, feeling for the slightest change. The dough is patient too, willing to wait as the unseen yeast feasts and ferments, creating pockets of air that will lift and lighten the final loaf. This period of rest, known to bakers as the proofing or fermentation, is a sacred pause. It transforms simple ingredients into something living and vibrant, where microscopic organisms perform their ancient dance. The baker sees in this slow change a metaphor for life itself, that growth often happens in moments unseen, in the quiet spaces between action. He recalls stories told by his father and grandfather, how they too would watch the dough rise with the same gentle wonder. How this patient waiting has endured through centuries, a shared ritual connecting past and present. The texture of patience is woven into their hands, their breath, their daily lives. The baker breathes deeply, savoring the softness of the moment. Outside, the sun climbs steadily higher, filtering through the narrow windows and casting long, warm beams that ripple across the stone floor. Dust motes float in the light like tiny dancers, slow and graceful. In this sanctuary of calm, the baker finds a measure of peace. The demands of the day fade as he becomes fully present to the quiet miracle before him. Patience is no longer merely waiting. It is a practice of presence, an embrace of the unfolding mystery. He reaches out and touches the dough lightly, feeling its elasticity, the gentle give beneath his fingertips. The surface is cool, slightly sticky but yielding, alive with subtle movement. It responds to touch with softness and resilience, a tactile reminder that good things take time. The baker's eyes soften as he steps back, giving the dough space to continue its transformation. The weight of the morning seems lighter here, held in the texture of waiting, in the silent promise of growth. This slow, deliberate pace teaches the baker something beyond baking. It reminds him that life's richest moments are often found not in haste or loud triumphs, but in the gentle unfolding of time. In the patience to wait, to nurture, and to trust. As the day stretches onward, the dough rests still, rising steadily beneath the cloth. The texture of patience is woven into every fiber of the bakehouse, in the warmth of the hearth, the grain in the barrel, the water in the bucket, and the quiet hands that shape the future loaf. And so, the morning continues, a slow, steady passage marked by soft light, warm earth, and the enduring rhythm of patient hands. The dough, now alive and breathing beneath its cloth, has settled into its slow rise, swelling quietly in the warmth of the bakehouse. The soft amber light from the hearth flickers gently across the room, casting shifting shadows that seem to dance with the pulse of the living dough beneath the cloth. The baker approaches once again, the steady rhythm of his footsteps muted by the thick straw matting. His hands, still dusted with flour, are steady and sure as they prepare for the next step, the first folding. Folding the dough is an artful moment, both practical and meditative, a gentle coaxing that strengthens the dough's structure, encourages even fermentation, and invites the air pockets to grow more fully within its soft body. It is a ritual repeated countless times through centuries, a moment of touch and patience intertwined. The baker uncovers the dough carefully, peeling back the cloth with a soft rustle. The surface is now taut and smooth, a gentle dome rising proudly from the trough. The faintest sheen of moisture clings to its surface, a quiet testament to the yeast's slow work. He places his palms flat on the dough, feeling the soft elasticity beneath. The texture is supple but resilient, the dough yielding slowly under the gentle pressure. He begins by gently stretching one side, lifting and folding it back towards the center, like wrapping a gift with care. His movements are slow and deliberate, no hurry here, the rhythm measured, mindful. The dough folds over itself, creating layers that will trap warmth and air, building the strength it needs to rise higher still. The slight tackiness on his fingers is a comforting reminder of the life stirring within. Next, he turns the trough slightly and repeats the fold on the opposite side, pressing gently to seal the layers together. The sound is soft, a faint squelch as the dough moves, an intimate murmur of transformation. The baker folds the dough again, this time from the remaining two sides, each fold like a gentle breath coaxing the dough awake, shaping it with quiet reverence. The folds create a rounded, smooth mass, supple yet firm, cradled now in its own layers. He wipes his hands on his apron, pausing for a moment to feel the calm that this simple act brings. The folding is a moment of connection, between baker and dough, between tradition and craft, between patience and progress. Outside, the village hums softly with the sounds of morning, distant calls, the clatter of a cart, the rustle of linen drying on a clothesline. But inside the bakehouse, all is still save for the soft crackle of the hearth and the gentle breath of the dough beneath the baker's hands. The folds are not just practical, they are a meditation. The baker's thoughts slow and settle, matching the deliberate rhythm of his fingers and the pliant texture beneath them. Each fold is a moment to witness the dough's slow transformation, to honor the time it takes to become something more. He notices the warmth spreading from the hearth and how it wraps around the room like a soft cloak, encouraging the dough's growth and the yeast's quiet feast. The air is thick with the scent of grain and earth, mingling with the faint smoke and the warmth of wood. Once the folds are complete, the baker covers the dough once more with the cloth, tucking it gently around the edges. The dough rests now, layered and strengthened, ready to rise further in the soft embrace of time and heat. He steps back, hands relaxed at his sides, breathing in the comforting sense of the bakehouse. The rhythm of work slows once again, giving space for quiet growth. The first folding is more than technique. It is a gentle gesture of care, a silent promise that the loaf will rise with grace and strength. It is a moment to pause and honor the slow alchemy unfolding in the wooden trough, where grain, water, warmth, and hands meet in quiet partnership. The baker smiles softly, the calm of the moment settling deep within him. The day stretches ahead, slow and steady, marked by the careful cadence of patient hands and living dough. The bread will rise, just as it always has, in time, with care, and with the quiet texture of patience woven into every fold. The bakehouse settles into a rhythm of quiet anticipation. After the first folding, the dough is left to rest once more beneath its cloth, nestled in the wooden trough. The hearth's amber glow bathes the room in gentle warmth, softening the chill that still lingers in the early morning air. Time, here, is measured not by clocks or calendars but by the steady, invisible work of fermentation and growth. The waiting game is perhaps the most profound moment in the baker's day, a lesson in patience, humility, and trust. The dough is alive now, breathing slowly as the yeast feasts on sugars hidden deep within the flour. Tiny bubbles of carbon dioxide form and stretch beneath the surface, lifting and expanding the dough with a gentle power unseen by the naked eye. The baker moves quietly through the bakehouse, his senses attuned to every detail. The faint scent of the fermenting dough blends with the soft smoke from the hearth and the earthy aroma of grain and flour. It is a perfume both ancient and comforting, one that speaks of sustenance, labor, and home. Outside, the village hums softly with the sounds of morning, the low murmur of conversation, the clatter of hooves on cobblestones, the rustle of leaves stirred by a gentle breeze. Yet within these stone walls, time slows and stretches, folding inward like the dough itself. The baker pauses near the trough, resting a hand lightly on the wooden rim. The surface of the dough is taut and glossy beneath the cloth, rising steadily as the invisible life within grows. He feels the faint vibration, the subtle pulse of fermentation, like the heartbeat of the bakehouse itself. This waiting is not empty. It is filled with quiet work and watchfulness. The baker knows the signs to look for: the dough's rise, the feel of its surface, the scent that deepens and sweetens as fermentation progresses. It is a dance of senses, honed by years of practice and patience. He takes a breath and settles into the slow flow of the day, allowing the quiet to fill the space around him. The hearth crackles softly, its warmth wrapping the room like a gentle embrace. Light filters through the small windows, casting long shadows that shift with the sun's slow journey across the sky. The baker's thoughts drift gently, untethered from the rush of modern life. In this place, the pace is measured by natural rhythms: the rise and fall of the dough, the flicker of the fire, the slow unfolding of morning. He remembers stories told by his forebears, how their ancestors too would wait with quiet reverence, watching the dough rise as the world turned slowly outside. This act of waiting connects generations, a silent thread woven through time. The baker's gaze softens as he considers the dough's journey, from seed to sack, from flour to living mass. Each moment of waiting is part of a larger story, one of transformation and renewal. He reaches out, lifting the cloth carefully to check the dough's progress. The surface is smooth and swollen, warm beneath his fingertips. It yields gently, like a soft pillow, filled with air and promise. He closes his eyes briefly, savoring the moment, a quiet communion with the slow unfolding of life. There is a sacred stillness here, a pause that nurtures not only the dough but the soul. The baker breathes deeply, feeling the tension ease from his shoulders, the mind quiet in the gentle embrace of waiting. Minutes pass, or perhaps hours, the exact measure lost in the timelessness of this space. The dough continues to grow, rising steadily as the yeast works its quiet magic. The baker prepares for the next steps with calm readiness, knowing that the quality of the bread depends on this patient pause. To hurry now would be to rob the dough of its strength and character. Instead, he embraces the waiting game as a gift, a moment to slow, to observe, and to honor the ancient rhythms of craft and care. Outside, the village moves forward with its day, but within the bakehouse, time holds still. The dough rises, and with it, the promise of bread that will warm hearths and hearts alike. The waiting game teaches a timeless lesson, that in patience lies the power to create, to transform, and to nourish. And so, the baker waits, steady, calm, present, knowing that this slow unfolding is the true heart of his craft. The dough, having risen steadily through the patient waiting game, now fills the wooden trough with a soft fullness that speaks of promise. Its surface glows faintly beneath the cloth, taut and supple, alive with the slow, steady energy of transformation. The bakehouse remains a sanctuary of calm, its walls steeped in the gentle warmth of the hearth and the scent of earth and grain. The baker approaches the trough with a quiet reverence, aware that this moment marks the beginning of the dough's final journey into form. Shaping the loaves is both an art and a ritual, a moment of mindful connection where the raw mass takes on purpose and character through touch and intention. His hands are clean now, wiped free of flour, warm and steady. He lifts the cloth carefully, revealing the dough beneath like a soft, living cloud. It rises and swells, breathing gently beneath his gaze. With deliberate care, the baker presses his fingers into the dough, feeling its elasticity and strength. The surface yields with a gentle resistance, then springs back, alive and responsive. This is dough ready to be shaped, a canvas waiting for the baker's touch. He begins by gently turning the dough out of the trough onto a floured wooden board, the texture of the wood rough beneath the soft mass. The dough settles quietly, its warmth mingling with the coolness of the board. Using a scraper, the baker divides the dough into portions, each one measured by feel and experience rather than by scale. Each portion is a future loaf, a promise of nourishment and comfort. He lifts the first portion carefully, cupping it in his hands. The dough is soft but resilient, pliable and moist. His fingers fold it inward, gently rounding the edges and tucking the dough beneath itself, coaxing it into a smooth, taut ball. The baker's touch is patient and tender, folding and pressing with practiced ease. Each movement shapes the dough's texture, creating surface tension that will help the loaf hold its form through the baking. He repeats the process with each portion, turning, folding, rounding, slowly molding the raw dough into individual loaves. The sound is soft, a muted thud as the dough settles onto the floured board. A whisper of flour dust rising with each movement. The shaping is a dance of hands and dough, a quiet rhythm that flows naturally from years of practice and deep connection to the craft. There is no rush. Every fold, every press is measured and mindful. Once shaped, the loaves rest on the board, covered lightly with linen cloths to protect their delicate surfaces. The baker knows that even now, the dough continues to breathe, to ferment, and to rise. He wipes his hands on his apron and steps back, observing the loaves bathed in the soft morning light filtering through the windows. Their surfaces are smooth, their shapes rounded and full, glowing faintly with the promise of what is to come. The bakehouse is filled with a hushed anticipation, the quiet waiting for the next phase of the bread's journey. The fire's glow grows steadier in the hearth, readying to meet the loaves with gentle heat. The baker's thoughts drift for a moment to the countless loaves shaped by hands before his own, ancestors who stood in kitchens much like this, crafting bread with care and patience. Each loaf carries the imprint of tradition, the story of generations kneaded into its very texture. Outside, the village moves with the slow certainty of daily life, footsteps on stone, voices calling in the distance, the hum of animals stirring. But inside the bakehouse, time flows differently, marked by the steady, mindful rhythm of shaping and waiting. The baker breathes deeply, savoring the moment, the calm before the oven's warmth transforms dough into bread. The loaves, soft and pliant now, are ready to become something more. This shaping is a quiet act of creation, a testament to patience and craft. It is the moment when raw potential becomes form, when simple ingredients take on new life. And so, with steady hands and a calm heart, the baker prepares the loaves for their next journey, into the warmth of the oven, where they will rise and brown, filling the village with the scent of home. The loaves, shaped and resting gently beneath their linen cloths, now await the next step in their quiet transformation. The bakehouse itself seems to hold its breath, the stillness heavy with anticipation and warmth. Outside, the village moves steadily, but inside, time bends and softens under the influence of the hearth and the oven's steady glow. The baker approaches the ancient stone oven with reverence. Its arched mouth yawns like a dark cave, lined with soot and glowing faintly from the fire that has burned low through the night. The stones are blackened and cracked, worn smooth by centuries of heat and hands. This oven is more than a tool. It is a vessel of transformation, a keeper of heat and hope. It has baked countless loaves, its walls infused with the memories of smoke and flame, warmth and bread. The baker checks the fire carefully, raking the glowing embers with a long iron poker, stirring the coals to a steady, even heat. The scent of smouldering wood mingles with the lingering aroma of burnt grain and ash, a smoky perfume that speaks of creation through fire. He reaches for the peel, a wide wooden paddle, worn smooth from years of use, and dusts it lightly with flour. The peel will carry the loaves into the oven's embrace. A delicate journey from the cool air of the bakehouse to the searing warmth within. One by one, the baker lifts the loaves from their resting place. They are cool to the touch but full of promise, soft and pliant, their rounded forms glowing faintly in the firelight. He places each loaf gently onto the floured peel, spacing them carefully to allow room for their rise. The wood creaks softly beneath the weight, a quiet song of time and craft. With a deep breath, the baker slides the loaves into the oven, the heat rushing forward like a living thing. The fire's roar swells briefly before settling into a steady crackle, the sound soothing and constant. Inside the oven, the loaves begin their slow metamorphosis. The dry heat draws moisture to the surface, forming a delicate crust that will soon harden to golden perfection. Within, the dough expands, gas bubbles swelling and stretching like tiny balloons as the yeast works its final magic. The heat penetrates deeply, causing complex chemical reactions, the Maillard reaction, caramelization, that will give the bread its color, texture, and rich flavor. The aroma begins to fill the bakehouse, a warm, earthy scent that rises like a gentle wave. Outside, the village breathes in this scent, the promise of fresh bread stirring hunger and comfort alike. The baker listens to the steady rhythm of the fire, the soft crackle and hiss, the deep warmth that fills the stone oven and the room beyond. Time slows once more as the bread bakes, the minutes stretching into a quiet meditation. The baker's eyes soften, his hands resting calmly by his sides. He feels a deep connection to this ancient process, fire transforming grain and water into sustenance, warmth, and life. He thinks of the generations who came before, who tended fires and shaped dough with hands like his own. Their patience, their care, their reverence for this ritual live on in every loaf baked here. After what feels like an eternity wrapped in warmth and quiet, the baker reaches in with the peel once more. He lifts the loaves gently, their crusts now a rich, deep brown, firm to the touch but still warm beneath his hands. The smell is intoxicating, a blend of toasted grain, caramel, and earth, rich and inviting. It fills the air, wrapping around the baker like a soft cloak. He sets the loaves carefully on a cooling rack near the open window. The air there is cooler, a soft breeze teasing the surface of the bread, allowing the crust to crisp and the steam to escape slowly. The bakehouse is hushed, the fire now a gentle glow, the work of the day nearly complete. The bread sits in quiet majesty, a simple yet profound creation born of earth, water, fire, and patient hands. The baker leans back, eyes closing briefly in contentment. The oven's embrace has done its work, turning humble dough into the nourishing loaves that will feed the village, carry the warmth of home, and sustain the body and soul. Outside, the world moves on, but here in this quiet kitchen, the ancient dance of baking continues, a ritual of transformation, patience, and quiet grace. The freshly baked loaves, golden and warm from their time in the oven's embrace, are carried carefully from the hearth to the wooden table near the window. The baker places them gently on the cooling rack, their crusts still steaming softly into the cool morning air that drifts in through the open pane. Outside, the village breathes slowly in the quiet rhythm of early day, but here in the bakehouse, time lingers, measured not by clocks but by the gentle breath of bread as it cools. Cooling and resting are essential, sacred moments in the life of bread, a quiet pause after the intense transformation of heat and flame. The loaves sit in tranquil stillness, their golden skins beginning to harden and crisp, while the interiors settle and finish their slow journey from dough to sustenance. The baker watches them with soft eyes, his hands resting lightly on the edge of the table. The scent that rises is rich and complex, a warm blend of toasted grain, subtle caramel, and the faintest whisper of wood smoke. It wraps around the room like a gentle embrace, filling the space with comfort and promise. He leans forward, reaching out to touch the crust of one loaf. His fingers meet a surface that is firm yet inviting, warm beneath his touch but no longer scorching hot. The crust carries a delicate texture, rough in places, smooth in others, marked with the gentle cracks and fissures that speak of slow cooling and natural life. Beneath this crust, the crumb, the soft, pale heart of the bread, begins to settle. It releases steam slowly, the last breath of moisture escaping from the depths of the loaf. This resting allows the crumb to fully form, softening into the spongy, springy texture that makes bread so comforting to bite and break. The baker knows from years of quiet practice that patience in this phase is as important as any other. Too soon, and the bread will tear and crumble. Too long, and its warmth and softness will fade. Cooling is a delicate balance, a moment to honor the bread's slow, natural rhythm. As he watches, a soft breeze slips through the open window, stirring the linen cloth draped nearby. The cloth flutters gently, as if to caress the loaves, carrying away the last whispers of steam and heat. The air is cool but kind, a perfect counterpoint to the lingering warmth of the bread. The baker's thoughts drift to the village, where the aroma of fresh bread will soon weave through doorways and streets, calling families to gather and share. He imagines the hands that will break the loaves, the faces that will smile at the first taste, the warmth spreading beyond the walls of this humble kitchen. He remembers the many mornings spent in this sacred routine, the slow unfolding of work and rest, the timeless dance of creation. Each loaf tells a story of earth and seed, of water and fire, of human hands guided by patience and care. The cooling period offers time for reflection, a quiet space where the baker can savor the fruits of his labor. He pours himself a cup of herbal tea, the steam rising in gentle spirals, and sits by the window. The village wakes more fully now, the sounds of daily life growing louder but still gentle and familiar. He takes a sip and breathes deeply, allowing the calm to settle around him. Outside, birds flit between branches, their songs weaving a soft melody through the air. The light shifts slowly, casting warm gold and soft shadows across the wooden floorboards. Back on the table, the bread cools steadily, the crust firming and the crumb settling into its final form. The baker runs his fingers along the edge of a loaf, feeling the satisfying give beneath the crust, the quiet resilience of a well-made bread. This resting phase is more than a pause. It is the final step in a journey that began with humble grain and ended with sustenance. It embodies the care and respect the baker holds for his craft, an understanding that good bread, like good things in life, cannot be rushed. In this quiet moment, the bakehouse feels alive with gentle energy, the warmth of fire past, the coolness of air present, the promise of nourishment soon to come. The bread rests now, cradled by time and care, ready to be shared and savored. As the sun climbs higher and the village stirs fully awake, the baker remains seated, savoring the soft stillness. The cooling loaves rest silently, their journey complete for now, a testament to the slow, patient art of baking. The time has come. The bread, now fully rested and cooled, rests upon the wooden table, its crust firm and fragrant, the soft crumb concealed within promising comfort and nourishment. The bakehouse, once quiet and still, now hums softly with the gentle bustle of anticipation. Outside, the village carries on its steady rhythm, its people sensing the day's true beginning, the moment when bread is broken and shared. The baker's hands move slowly, deliberately, as he lifts a loaf from the table. The warmth beneath his fingertips has softened now to a comforting glow, and the crust offers a satisfying resistance as he places the bread on the worn wooden cutting board. The grain in the board speaks of years of use, a silent witness to countless meals, celebrations, and quiet evenings. With a well-used bread knife, the baker slices into the loaf. The blade presses gently through the crust, emitting a soft, satisfying crackle, a delicate symphony of sound that echoes through the room like a whispered invitation. Each cut reveals the tender crumb inside, pale, spongy, and flecked with tiny air pockets formed by the yeast's patient work. The aroma deepens, filling the bakehouse with the rich scent of freshly baked bread, warm, earthy, and faintly sweet. It rises in soft waves, wrapping around the baker like a familiar embrace, a scent that speaks of home, comfort, and sustenance. Slices are laid out carefully on a simple wooden platter, their edges crisp and inviting. The baker's movements are unhurried, each gesture infused with a quiet reverence. This act of breaking bread is more than nourishment. It is an ancient ritual of connection, of community, and of gratitude. He carries the platter outside, stepping into the village square where the market bustle hums softly. Neighbors pause in their tasks, drawn by the familiar scent and the sight of warm bread offered freely. Faces brighten, hands reach out, and smiles bloom like flowers after rain. The sharing of bread is a sacred act here, a symbol of hospitality and kinship. It binds the community together in the simplest, most profound way, through the breaking of food, the offering of warmth, the exchange of care. Elders and children, farmers and merchants, friends and strangers alike gather around the baker. Words are soft, laughter light, and the rhythm of giving and receiving flows gently between them. Each slice handed out carries with it the weight of tradition and the promise of comfort. The bread nourishes more than bodies, it feeds the spirit. Stories are shared, hands are clasped, and moments of quiet joy unfold amid the hum of the village. The baker watches with a gentle smile, his heart full of the simple beauty of this communal act. As the sun climbs higher, casting warm light over the scene, the village breathes as one, connected by the shared experience of breaking bread. The scent lingers in the air, a fragrant thread weaving through the lives of those gathered. Back in the bakehouse, the quiet remains, the table now bare save for crumbs that whisper of the day's labor and love. The baker cleans his tools slowly, thoughtfully, the soft scrape of knife on board blending with the distant murmur of the village. This moment of sharing is both an ending and a beginning, the culmination of patient work and the start of nourishment spreading outward, sustaining body and soul alike. It is a reminder that bread, at its heart, is a gift to be shared, a bridge between hands and hearts. The baker pauses at the window, watching the village unfold beneath the vast, gentle sky. The air is warm and soft, filled with the lingering scent of bread and the quiet hum of life. He breathes deeply, grateful for the day's journey, from grain to loaf, from hearth to hand, from one soul to many. And so the story of the bread continues, carried forward in the breaking and sharing, a timeless ritual of patience, care, and community. As the sun dips low beyond the village rooftops, casting long shadows that stretch softly across the earth, the bakehouse grows quiet once more. The day's work has come to a gentle close, and the warm glow of twilight settles like a calm balm over the world. Inside, the baker sits by the fading hearth, the embers glowing softly, sending gentle pulses of heat into the cool evening air. The faint scent of spent wood mingles with the lingering aroma of freshly baked bread, a comforting perfume that clings to the walls and softens the edges of the day. The baker's hands rest lightly in his lap, fingers still dusted with a trace of flour, a reminder of the day's patient labor and care. His eyes gaze softly into the flickering light, watching as the small flames dance and die, leaving behind a quiet warmth that seems to seep into the very stones of the bakehouse. The room feels like a sanctuary, a place where time slows and deepens, where the spirit can rest and reflect. In these moments of calm, the baker's mind drifts gently through the day's events, like leaves floating slowly down a quiet stream. He recalls the rhythm of the morning, the mixing of flour and water, the soothing motion of kneading with bare hands, the slow folds that shaped the dough and invited it to rise. He remembers the waiting, that profound pause when time seemed to stretch and fold, holding the dough in a warm embrace. That waiting was a lesson, a teaching of patience, trust, and the beauty of slow transformation. The baker's thoughts turn to the oven's embrace, where fire and heat worked their quiet magic, turning raw dough into golden loaves. He recalls the sound of crust cracking under the blade, the rich scent that filled the air, and the warmth that spread through the bakehouse like a gentle tide. He smiles softly at the memory of sharing bread with neighbors, the simple joy of breaking and giving, the connection woven through the sharing of sustenance and care. It was a moment that tied him to the village, to tradition, and to something timeless and profound. As the shadows deepen, the baker allows himself to feel the fullness of the day, the slow, steady unfolding of craft, patience, and quiet grace. The work was humble, simple, and yet it carried a deep meaning, a sacred thread that connected him to those who came before and those yet to come. Outside, the village grows still under the darkening sky. Stars begin to glimmer faintly, distant and serene, like tiny beacons in the vast night. The breeze carries the coolness of evening, rustling leaves and stirring the scent of earth and wood. The baker rises slowly, moving to the window to look out over the sleeping village. The rooftops are bathed in silver moonlight, and the quiet is profound, a soft, soothing silence that invites rest and renewal. He breathes deeply, feeling gratitude for the day's journey, for the patient rhythm of his hands, the living warmth of the dough, the transformative fire of the oven, and the shared joy of breaking bread. Each step was part of a story that continues beyond him, a story of life, connection, and the humble gifts of the earth. In the stillness of evening, the baker feels a gentle peace settle over him, a calm that flows from knowing he has honored the slow, patient work of creation. The world may rush beyond these walls, but here, time moves softly, measured by breath, by touch, and by quiet reflection. He closes the window, letting the night settle in. The hearth's embers glow faintly before fading to ash. The baker prepares for rest, his body weary but his spirit light. Tomorrow will bring new tasks, new moments of care and creation. But for now, in this quiet twilight, he allows himself to simply be present, grateful, and at peace. The day's light fades fully, and with it, the bakehouse slips into night, holding its stories, its warmth, and its patient heart until the dawn calls it to life once more. As dawn edges its pale light across the village rooftops, spilling soft gold into the quiet streets, the bakehouse awakens once again. The night's cool embrace slowly loosens its hold, replaced by the gentle warmth of morning. Outside, the world stirs anew, birds chirp softly, leaves rustle in a light breeze, and the first footsteps echo along the cobblestones. Inside, the baker rises from restful sleep, ready to begin the timeless ritual once more. The cycle of bread begins again, a steady rhythm woven into the fabric of daily life, carrying with it the lessons of patience, care, and connection. Grain to flour, water to dough, dough to loaf, each step a link in an unbroken chain stretching back through generations. The baker moves through the familiar spaces of the bakehouse, the soft creak of floorboards beneath his feet blending with the whisper of morning air. The hearth, now cold, waits to be rekindled, the stone walls eager to cradle the warmth of fire once more. He opens the sack of grain, its rough texture familiar beneath his hands, and begins the slow work of milling, grinding kernels into fine flour. The sound is soft but steady, the rhythmic turning of stones, the faint rustle of grain falling like rain. The flour dust rises, light and airy, coating surfaces and fingertips alike, a powdery reminder of the earth's gift. Water is drawn from the well outside, cool and clear, reflecting the soft morning light. The baker measures carefully, knowing that even the smallest difference will change the dance of dough and yeast. He pours the water slowly into the wooden trough, the sound like a gentle stream, and begins to mix it with the flour. Hands return to the dough, rolling and folding, kneading patiently and with quiet reverence. The tactile connection is deep, skin to grain, warmth to moisture, motion to stillness. The dough responds, softening and stretching under patient care, coming alive in the slow, deliberate dance of creation. The baker pauses to feel the texture beneath his fingers, the dough's elasticity and strength. He folds it once more, then sets it aside beneath a cloth, covering it like a sleeping child. The waiting begins again, the slow rise and transformation fueled by unseen yeasts and time. Outside, the village breathes in harmony with the bakehouse, the steady pulse of life flowing through every street and field. Children run past, their laughter light and free, merchants prepare their stalls, farmers tend to animals, all woven together in the gentle tapestry of a new day. The baker knows that his work is part of something greater, a cycle that sustains and connects, rooted in the earth and carried forward by hands and hearts. Each loaf baked is a gift, a token of patience and craft, a thread in the story of community and sustenance. As the morning light grows stronger, the fire is rekindled, glowing and crackling, ready to embrace the shaped loaves in its warm hearth. The dance of transformation begins anew, from soft dough to golden bread, from earth's grain to nourishment shared. The baker smiles softly, the quiet joy of this cycle filling him. Though the tasks repeat, each day is unique, a fresh unfolding of old rituals, a new breath in the steady rhythm of life. He moves through the bakehouse with steady grace, hands gentle but sure, heart anchored in the calm certainty of the craft. The cycle renews itself endlessly, a meditation in patience, a hymn to the slow alchemy of bread. And so the story continues, as it always has and always will: grain and water, fire and hands, time and care, the sacred elements that create sustenance, connection, and life. With each new dawn, the baker answers the call, honoring the timeless dance of creation, the humble miracle of bread, and the enduring cycle that binds past, present, and future in its warm embrace. Long before the soft flour met the cold water in the baker's wooden trough, the story of bread began far beyond the warm walls of the bakehouse, in the quiet fields where the grain sways gently beneath an endless sky. Here, wheat grows slowly, guided by nature's rhythm and the patient hands of those who tend it. The journey of bread is, at its heart, a journey of earth and time. The morning air is crisp and still as the farmer steps out onto the rich soil, the ground soft beneath his worn boots. His breath rises in delicate puffs, mingling with the faint scent of damp earth and dew-soaked grass. The fields stretch wide and golden, an ocean of swaying stalks tipped with ripening grain. Each stalk carries the weight of a season, a quiet story written in sun, wind, and rain. With steady hands, the farmer brushes his fingers across the wheat's slender stems, feeling their gentle resilience. The stalks bend softly but hold firm, bearing kernels that gleam like tiny jewels when touched by morning light. The grains are small, unassuming, yet packed with potential, seeds of life that have traveled through time, connecting soil to sustenance. The seasons have shaped this land and its grain. Spring's rain fed the roots, summer's sun warmed the fields, and gentle autumn breezes coaxed the kernels to fullness. The farmer knows the delicate balance required to harvest at just the right moment, too early, and the grain lacks sweetness, too late, and it risks loss to storms or wild birds. Harvest begins at dawn, when the air is still cool, and the world is hushed in reverence. With a simple sickle, the farmer cuts the wheat in long, methodical sweeps, careful not to damage the fragile stalks. Bundles are gathered and laid in neat sheaves, drying under open skies that stretch endlessly blue. The scent here is warm and sweet, a deep richness carried by the breeze that stirs the field. Threshing follows, a slow, deliberate separation of grain from stalk. The farmer's hands work tirelessly, sifting and shaking, the kernels falling like soft rain onto woven mats. The sound is muted but rhythmic, a quiet symphony of harvest and preparation. Each kernel collected is a treasure, a vital link in the chain that will carry life forward. After threshing, grain rests, drying and maturing, before its final transformation. It travels to the mill, where heavy stones turn slowly, grinding kernels into fine flour. The mill's wheels creak and groan, the scent of freshly ground grain mingling with the cool air. Flour rises like mist, light and powdery, drifting gently into sacks waiting to return to the bakehouse. This slow, patient journey, from earth to flour, is the foundation of every loaf. It teaches the baker humility and respect for time, reminding him that nourishment begins long before the dough is mixed. The grain's journey is a silent meditation on patience, resilience, and the cycles of life. The farmer's work, the miller's craft, and the baker's hands are woven together in an unbroken thread, each step honoring the one before, and preparing the way for the one after. Through this cycle, the village is sustained, fed not only by bread but by the shared labor and quiet dedication of many hands. As the baker receives the flour, dusted lightly on his apron, he holds more than powder in his palms. He carries the story of soil and sun, rain and harvest, a story as old as time itself. With every batch of dough, he honors this journey, mindful that every loaf contains the spirit of the grain, the earth, and the hands that shaped it. In this gentle passage from field to flower, from grain to bread, lies a timeless truth, that life is slow, sacred, and infinitely precious. And it is in the quiet patience of this journey that true nourishment is found. Water, it is one of the most unassuming elements. Yet without it, the gentle alchemy of bread could never begin. In the quiet village where our baker works, water is more than just a liquid, it is a vital breath of life, a whispering thread that connects earth, rain, and hearth. The story of bread is incomplete without the tale of water, its journey from deep wells, through hands and vessels, and finally into the dough that rises and breathes. At the heart of the village stands an ancient well, its stones worn smooth and cool from centuries of use. The well is a quiet sentinel, framed by ivy and moss, holding secrets in its depths. When the first light of dawn touches the village, the air is cool and crisp, and the water in the well lies still, a dark mirror reflecting the slow awakening of the sky. The baker arrives early, his footsteps soft on the stone-paved path. He pauses for a moment, hand resting lightly on the well's edge, feeling the coolness seep through the rough stones. The silence here is deep, broken only by the faint chirping of birds and the gentle rustle of leaves stirred by a morning breeze. Lowering the wooden bucket into the well, he listens to the splash as the water greets the bucket, cool and welcoming. The bucket is lifted slowly, carrying with it the weight of the village's lifeblood. Water, cold and clear, gleams in the morning sun, a promise of purity and renewal. Carrying the bucket back to the bakehouse, the baker senses water's quiet power, its softness and strength, its ability to shape and sustain. Water flows through the village's veins as surely as blood through a body, vital to life and craft alike. Inside the bakehouse, the water meets the flour in the wooden trough. There is a sacredness to this moment, the merging of earth and water, powder and liquid, dry and wet. The baker pours the water gently, watching as it seeps into the flour, darkening the pale dust and beginning to form a sticky, malleable mass. He kneads the mixture slowly, fingers slipping through the soft paste, feeling the cool moisture enliven the grain. The dough responds immediately, transforming from dusty powder to supple, elastic form. Water breathes life into the flour, awakening dormant starches and proteins, inviting them to dance in the slow rhythm of bread making. The water's temperature is vital, too cold, and the dough resists, too warm, and it rushes too fast, losing the gentle grace of slow fermentation. The baker's practiced hands sense these nuances, adjusting carefully to nurture the yeast's quiet awakening. Beyond the bakehouse walls, water shapes the landscape. It trickles through streams, nourishes the roots of trees, and glistens on leaves. It is a constant companion to the grain in the fields, the miller's wheel, and the baker's trough. Water teaches lessons in patience and flow. It moves unhurriedly, carving valleys over centuries, nourishing life with steady, quiet persistence. Like water, the bread-making process unfolds slowly, requiring trust and care. The baker often pauses to listen, not just to the sounds of kneading or fire, but to the subtle whispers of water, the splash in the well, the ripple in the trough, the steam rising softly from freshly baked loaves. These sounds are the heartbeat of the bakehouse, a gentle reminder of the unseen forces that shape life. Water is the thread connecting soil to seed, seed to flour, flour to bread. It is the breath of life woven through the craft of baking, a humble yet powerful presence. Without water's whisper, there would be no dough, no rise, no golden crust. As the baker moves through his day, the presence of water lingers, in the sheen on his hands, the steam curling from the oven, and the soft murmurs of village life. It is both substance and spirit, a quiet force that nourishes, shapes, and sustains. In the slow, patient rhythm of the bakehouse, water flows gently through every step, from well to trough, from grain to loaf, from earth to table. And in this flow lies a deep and timeless harmony, a meditation on the essential simplicity and sacredness of life's most vital gift. In the heart of the bakehouse lies the hearth, a sacred space where fire breathes warmth and life into the quiet morning hours. The hearth is more than stone and flame, it is the pulse of the baker's world, the steady rhythm that guides the slow transformation of dough into bread. Its soft glow fills the room with comfort and promise, inviting patience and reverence. Before dawn, the baker approaches the hearth with practiced hands, lifting the heavy iron poker to stir the glowing embers left from the previous day's fire. The stones surrounding the hearth are blackened and warm, their surfaces etched with the stories of countless loaves baked and fires tended. Each mark and crack is a whisper from the past, a testament to the steady rhythm of craft handed down through generations. The fire is rekindled slowly, a flicker growing to a steady flame. The scent of burning wood fills the air, earthy, smoky, and sweet, wrapping around the room like a familiar shawl. The gentle crackling and popping sounds of the fire create a soothing soundtrack, one that sets the pace for the day's work. The hearth's heat is a living thing. It hums softly beneath the stones, radiating warmth that seeps into the air and settles on the baker's skin. This warmth is essential, tender and strong, coaxing the dough to rise with a gentle embrace. The hearth teaches patience, too fierce a flame, and the bread will burn, too weak, and it will remain raw and heavy. The baker knows this balance intimately, reading the fire like a language. He watches the color of the embers, the dance of the flames, the faint wisps of smoke curling upwards. His senses are attuned to the hearth's heartbeat, allowing him to tend the fire with care and subtlety. As the fire burns steadily, the baker prepares the loaves for their journey into the oven. He dusts the wooden peel with flour, laying each shaped dough carefully in place. The loaves rest a moment, warmed by the hearth's gentle glow, their surfaces beginning to tauten with promise. When the time is right, the baker slides the peel forward, carrying the loaves into the oven's glowing mouth. The fire's heat envelops them, a tender embrace that will slowly transform them from soft dough to golden bread. Inside the oven, the stones radiate warmth evenly, holding the heat steady for hours. Outside the hearth, the bakehouse fills with the rich scent of baking bread, a complex blend of toasted grain, caramel, and wood smoke. This aroma floats gently on the air, drifting through open windows and spilling into the village streets, calling the community with its quiet invitation. The hearth also holds space for reflection and rest. Between tending fires and baking loaves, the baker pauses, drawing warmth from the hearth's glow. It is a place to breathe deeply, to listen to the soft crackle of wood, to feel the steady pulse of fire, a meditation in heat and light. As the day fades into evening, the hearth's flames dwindle to glowing embers, the heartbeat slowing and softening. The stones retain their warmth, a gentle comfort that carries through the night, ready to be rekindled with the dawn. The hearth connects the present to the past, the tangible to the unseen. It holds the breath of the bakehouse, the pulse of creation, and the warmth of countless hands and hearts. In its steady glow, the baker finds a timeless rhythm, slow, patient, and full of quiet power. Through this heartbeat of fire, bread is born, a humble miracle of earth, water, and flame, shaped by patient hands and steady hearts. The art of baking is, above all, the art of touch. It is a conversation between the baker's hands and the living dough, dialogue carried out in soft pressure, gentle folds, and patient patience. The hands that shape bread are more than instruments of labor, they are the keepers of tradition, the vessels of care, and the storytellers of creation. In the quiet stillness of the bakehouse, the baker's hands move slowly and deliberately. They are dusted with flour, the soft powder coating skin and nails like a light veil. The fingertips feel every nuance, the roughness of grain, the elasticity of dough, the faint warmth of yeast waking to life beneath the surface. The hands are calloused, softened, and strengthened by years of work. Each scar and crease is a testament to countless mornings spent folding and kneading, pressing and shaping. These marks tell a silent story, a history written not in words but in touch. As the baker lifts a mass of dough from the trough, his hands fold it gently over itself. The dough resists softly, yielding under careful pressure before springing back like a living thing. The baker senses its texture and readiness, the softness mingled with strength, the subtle resistance that marks perfect fermentation. There is a rhythm to this shaping, slow folds, gentle presses, stretches that encourage the dough to grow strong and airy. Each movement is precise but tender, a meditation that connects the baker's spirit to the slow transformation unfolding beneath his fingers. The act of shaping bread is ancient. Across centuries and cultures, hands have performed these same gestures, honoring the humble ingredients and the magic of fermentation. The baker feels this connection as a quiet thread, binding him to those who came before and those who will follow. The hands work not just with skill but with love. There is a reverence in the way the baker handles the dough, a deep respect for the life it holds and the nourishment it will provide. The shaping becomes a ritual, a sacred dance where every fold and tuck prepares the loaf for its journey into the hearth. The tactile nature of this work grounds the baker in the present moment. Flour-dusted fingers, soft dough yielding beneath firm palms, each sensation is a reminder of the slow, patient rhythm of creation. The shaping is a prayer in motion, an offering of care that will be transformed by fire and time. Hands also tell the story of community. They are the same hands that greet neighbors, share bread, and tend the hearth. They carry the wisdom of practice and the warmth of human touch, essential elements in a craft that feeds body and soul alike. As the baker finishes shaping the last loaf of the day, he runs his fingers lightly over its surface. The dough is smooth and taut, ready to rise and breathe. The hands that shaped it will soon offer it to the fire, and later, to the hands of those who will break it and share it. In these quiet moments, the the baker feels a profound gratitude. The hands that shape bread are humble but powerful. They transform simple ingredients into sustenance, labor into art, time into life. Through patient touch and mindful care, the baker's hands become more than tools. They become a bridge between earth and table, between past and present, between maker and community. And in the shaping, a story unfolds, a story of patience, connection, and the quiet miracle of bread. Within the simple ingredients of bread lies a secret life, an invisible, living presence that brings dough to rise and breathes lightness into what would otherwise be heavy and dense. This quiet force is yeast, a humble organism with extraordinary power. The breath of yeast is the gentle heartbeat beneath the crust, the unseen alchemy that transforms flour and water into something alive. Yeast is a microscopic fungus, ancient and resilient, existing all around us in the air, soil, and on the surfaces of grains. For centuries, bakers have cultivated yeast, learning to harness its subtle magic. The yeast's journey begins when it meets warmth and moisture in the dough, awakening from dormancy to begin its slow, patient work. The baker mixes yeast carefully into the flour and water mixture, mindful not to disturb its delicate balance. Yeast needs time, temperature, and nourishment to thrive, and the baker's hands create the perfect environment for this quiet transformation. As the dough rests beneath a soft cloth, yeast begins its dance. It feeds on sugars present in the flour, breaking them down and releasing carbon dioxide gas. This gas becomes trapped in tiny pockets throughout the dough, causing it to expand and rise gently over hours. The process is slow, deliberate, and graceful. The baker watches and feels for the subtle changes, the dough's increasing softness, the delicate bubbles appearing beneath the surface, the sweet, faint scent of fermentation that signals life within. This breathing of the dough is more than a chemical reaction, it is a living process, a meditation on patience and trust. The yeast works invisibly, steadily, shaping the bread's texture and flavor with quiet determination. Without yeast's breath, bread would remain dense and flat, lacking the light crumb and airy softness that makes it such a comfort to eat. The yeast's gentle power transforms simple ingredients into something sustaining, nourishing both body and spirit. The baker knows that haste will kill the yeast's magic. Too much heat or rushing the rise will disrupt the balance, leaving the dough heavy and lifeless. Instead, he honors the yeast's pace, allowing it to work in its own time, trusting in the slow alchemy of nature. Beyond the bakehouse, yeast exists as part of the world's invisible life force, tiny organisms that thrive in forests, fields, and kitchens alike. It is a reminder that beneath the surface of all things, life breathes and transforms, often unseen but always present. The breath of yeast also carries with it history. Long before commercial yeast was available, bakers preserved starter doughs, a living culture passed from generation to generation, full of wild yeasts and bacteria unique to place and time. This starter was a precious inheritance, linking baker and bread across centuries. In the quiet moments of baking, the baker feels this connection deeply. He is part of an unbroken chain of hands and hearts, nurturing life through patient care and respect for the yeast's gentle work. As the dough swells and softens, the baker prepares it for the hearth, knowing that the yeast's breath has made the bread ready for its final transformation. Into the heat, the bubbles will expand and bake into a golden crust, the life within sealed into each loaf. The breath of yeast is a whisper from the past, a gift to the present, and a promise for the future. It teaches the value of patience, the power of small things, and the miracle of life unfolding quietly beneath the surface. And so, in the slow, steady rise of the dough, the breath of yeast is a silent hymn, a gentle reminder that even the smallest life can bring forth nourishment, connection, and hope.